Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so blue. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so blue. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you.
Wayne Arlo Owens is the fifth son, the seventh of 9 children born to James Clark and Lenny Ellsworth Owens. Born Groundhog Day, February 2, 1921, he spent his growing-up years in Thatcher, Arizona, occasionally summering in Show Low on his Uncle Whitty Ellsworth's ranch. Margie Vanette Kempton Owens is the last of 6 children, the third daughter of Nathan Thomas and Martha Jane Stewart Kempton. Born on the Brewery Ranch in Solomon on July 24, 1923, she caused her brothers and sisters to miss the annual Pioneer Parade and celebration. They were somewhat disappointed. She spent her earliest years in Solomon, moving to Thatcher at the beginning of her high school years. It was then that Margie met Wayne. He first saw her in the halls at school, thought she was cute, and flipped her on the behind. He felt that was a way to get acquainted. She thought he sure would be a cute guy if he just knew how to treat girls. He began to frequent her home as a friend to her brother Lamar. Margie was walked home from sporting events at different times by Lauren and had classes with Ross, but Wayne is the Owens brother who caught her eye. She vividly remembers them sitting on the teeter-totter on the elementary school grounds after classes, the first time he asked her out. She is sure she was there because Wayne was there, and he may have been there because he worked with his father cleaning the school. She already considered them as belonging together, but according to Margie, he did a John Alden and asked her out for someone else, much to her disappointment. She declined. Contrarily, Wayne does not remember asking her for anyone but himself. She says she was attracted to this courteous and thoughtful young man. He says she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He still says that today. He brought her chocolates for her 14th birthday. No one else was home, So being very proper, they visited on the front porch rather than him being invited inside. Margie's mother teased her that Wayne did not come to the house to see her, but to eat the crab apples off the tree in the backyard. After high school, Wayne moved to Santa Monica, California, where he went to a training school and then was employed by Douglas Aircraft doing sheet metal construction. Her sister, Lorena Matthews, thought he'd make a pretty good catch and tried to get him to date girls in the area. Wayne decided he'd send his girl back home a ring. If she kept it, as he put it, he'd know where he stood. If she sent it back, he'd think about those California girls. Ironically, at this same time, Margie and her mother drove out to see Wayne. It was around Easter. They arrived at his boarding house in the late afternoon only to find him gone. When Wayne returned, he exclaimed, "I wish I'd known you were coming. I just mailed a package to you." They rushed back together, but the post office was closed. The next morning, young, naive 16-year-old Margie went to the post office to ask for her package. They told her it had already been shipped to the main office. She spoke to the postmaster at the main office, again explaining the circumstances. Unbelievably, the postmaster went to the back, dug around until he located the right bag, emptied it, searched for, and retrieved the package. After she showed proof of identification, he placed it in her hands. She waited until that evening, when Wayne came to the motel room she was sharing with her mother, to open it. She kept it. He had his answer. His landlord had been so very pleased with Wayne's clean living habits that she was not happy to learn he was engaged, getting married, and would be moving out. May 23, 1941, Wayne traveled from Santa Monica to Safford by bus, had only a weekend off. Saturday, May 24, he married his sweetheart. No honeymoon. They slept the first night in her mother's Thatcher home. They packed up and moved out the last of their belongings on Sunday. Then Wayne, Margie, and Martha, Margie's mother, drove back to Santa Monica, where Wayne was due back at work on Monday. December 1941, with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the United States entered into World War II. This was to affect the young marrieds very profoundly. It was while they lived in Santa Monica that they prepared and drove to the Mesa, Arizona temple to be sealed for time and all eternity. April 17, 1942. It was the nearest temple. No family members were there with them. No friends or family met them there. It was just the two of them. Later they moved into Phoenix, Arizona when Wayne changed jobs and went to work for Goodyear in Litchfield, Arizona. Margie remembers sugar rationing and meat rationing. Then the bakeries went on strike and she had to drive clear to Glendale to buy bread for Wayne's lunch sandwiches. The commute to work was long, so they purchased a home closer to the job. It was a newly built house, sitting on a dirt lot, but they tried to put in a lawn. Then Wayne got notice from the draft board. Because his employment was involved in the war effort, he could have requested a deferment. Instead, he signed with the Army Air Corps. The war caused them to be separated from each other for over 3 years. Both had growing and learning experiences. But the war finally ended. The homecoming was disappointing for Wayne. The first men back were hailed with bands, parades, and public announcements, but the later groups just quietly returned home, with no fanfare whatsoever. No one even seemed to know they were back. They got back to their base in New Jersey, then flew home in cargo planes. They landed briefly at Sky Harbor in Phoenix, Arizona, but could not deplane until California. They were then given 30 days furlough. Another 15 days were later added on before he had to report back to Fort MacArthur. When Wayne knew they were going to Florida, he asked for separate orders so that he could drive his wife down. This was denied. He insisted. It was denied. "I am driving my wife down. You cut my orders separate, then I'm going," Wayne demanded. "We'll see about that," was the commanding officer's response, and he put Wayne on quarters. He could not leave base. She could not come see him. They had to visit through the fence. Margie was staying with Jack and Marjorie Kempton. When Wayne knew the date for his outfit to leave, he told Margie to meet him in Los Angeles, and he'd jump train and drive with her to Florida. Jack, an FBI agent, warned her not to bring him around their home. Wayne jumped train in L.A. as they planned, and they drove through Safford to visit friends and relatives long missed. As Wayne put it, they fiddled around and took their time reaching Florida. Wayne felt certain that when he showed up at base, he would be doing time in the brig. He reported in, told them he had missed his train in L.A., asked where his outfit was. There, he asked for and received his mail. His gear was waiting for him. He got himself all lined out, hung up his clothes, made his bunk. No one seemed to have noticed he was gone. Immediately, he went in and asked for a pass. It was issued, and he was told to report in every other day. Margie remembers the room they rented in a boarding house. They shared the bathroom with other boarders. She said there were so many rings on the bathtub she had to go out and buy scouring powder and scrub it before taking a bath. Their landlady would come around and check to see if they had their lights on. Not allowed to have lights on in the daytime. Wayne's unit was kept there for a short period of time before being discharged, and they returned to Safford, Arizona. Wayne's first civilian job was as an electrician's helper, and Margie continued working for Long's Theaters. They rented an apartment above a garage and shared the bathroom with the occupants of the second apartment. Later, they moved out to a little house they bought on 2nd Street. They had difficulty getting started on a family. Margie was put to bed for 3 months during her pregnancy with Jane. She stayed with Jesse and Bill for that time. Near the due date, she returned to the house she and Wayne had purchased on 2nd Street. About this time, Wayne went to work for Standard Stations after going to Phoenix for schooling. Then Jane arrived, July 1947. She was a challenging baby for the new parents, lots of colic. Wayne said she would only sleep on his shoulder in the rocking chair. In January 1949, Jean arrived in a rush after Margie took castor oil because the due date had passed. The delivery was quick, and the nurse held the baby in place until the doctor arrived. When Margie scolded a little and said she wished he could have made it sooner, he quipped, "You didn't want me to come without my pants on, did you?" The family made a move to Shoalo, Arizona. In 1952 came Jeff. Margie again stayed with Jesse and Bill, now in Winslow, as the time drew near. When they actually arrived at the hospital, the one and only delivery room was occupied. The baby was delivered. Jesse called Wayne, who was in Shoalo working, and told him he had a son. He drove over from Shoalo a couple of days later to pick them up. He brought flowers and checked that baby to make sure it really was a boy. They headed back to Shoalo in a November snowstorm. From Holbrook to Snowflake, the only way they could tell where the road was the one set of tracks in the snow, not even trees along the side to help them judge. Coming out of Snowflake, they came up behind a snowplow and followed it until it turned around. They plowed snow with their bumper, using the trees beside the road as guides, and felt it was a bright enough night they could see where the road was. The snow continued to fall all the way home. Jack arrived in May 1954. Margie went to Silver Creek Maternity Home in Snowflake for his birth, having varnished a rocking chair the day before and possibly bringing on the labor. Jack's large head made it a rough delivery. Wayne kept Jane, Jean, and Jeff while Margie recuperated. They were living in Aunt Carrie Ellsworth's 2-story house at the time. During that first year of Jack's life, Wayne and Margie busily assisted with the construction of their new 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on the hill overlooking the elementary school. In this home they spent the next nearly 30 years before purchasing a manufactured home in 1983 and moving on to the back half of the lot facing Merrill Street. Wayne worked at Arizona Public Service at various job descriptions, and Margie made a career as business manager for Shoalo School District. Retirement brought them time to travel the state in their RV and find much enjoyment together. Their winter getaway in Mesa has also been a site of happy memories. The arrival of grandchildren and great-grandchildren has brought joy and challenges to them also. With a grand total of 15 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren to date, family gatherings are a noisy affair. After 60 years of marriage, they love each other more than ever before, and they show it through daily acts of kindness and consideration.